This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
UN urges action against rise in terrorist attacks in the Sahel. Ethiopia, Egypt and Sudan talks on Grand Renaissance Dam fail. And UN report says Congo ethnic killings may amount to crimes against humanity. Hello and welcome to Africa Live, only on CGTN. I'm Karen Roberts, live in Nairobi. Rama joins me now with all your business headlines. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Karen. Here's what's coming up in the course of the hour. Tourism earnings in Kenya rise by nearly 4% in 2019. And the World Bank has cut growth forecasts for Ethiopia. It's nearly half of what the government thinks the economy will grow by in 2020. We'll explore that and plenty more in the course of the hour. For now, though, let's start with the latest in current affairs with Karen.
Thank you, Rama. We begin in Niger, where the latest assault on a military base has left 25 soldiers dead. Thursday's attack comes just days before French President Emmanuel Macron is expected to meet with the President of Niger and other leaders from the Sahel region. The meeting was pushed back a month ago after an earlier attack. CG10's Daniela Pearson has more.
The assault took place at a military camp at Chinagodra, a small town in Niger near the border with Mali. Jihadist militants are suspected to be behind the attack, but no group has come forward to claim responsibility. A defense spokesperson detailed the event in a televised statement. He said that 63 militants were killed in the fighting.
The response with aerial support from the Niger Air Force and our partners allowed us to hit back and push our enemies outside our borders. The Minister of Defense, in the name of the President of the Republic, Supreme Chief of the Army, and in the name of the government, presents saddened condolences to the victims and families and wish a quick recovery to the wounded.
This attack coincides with efforts by Islamist groups to force the Niger army back from its western border with Mali. Jihadists are increasingly targeting military camps in Niger, and with each assault, their cache of weapons and armed vehicles grows. Across the border in Mali, the military has already retreated from some of its most remote and vulnerable outposts. Only a month earlier, Niger suffered its deadliest militant raid in living memory. 71 soldiers were killed at another military outpost 150 kilometers west of Chinagodra.
I have come here to express my feeling of revulsion on behalf of all my compatriots in the face of a war imposed on us by an enemy who has addressed us with nothing but aggression in a violent and treacherous manner.
France, the former colonial power in a number of West African countries, has more than 4,000 soldiers in the region in its counter-terrorism task force, Operation Barkhane. But opinions are divided on the presence of French troops on Sahelian soil.
I notice in too many countries an anti-French sentiment prospering without any clear political condemnation. I cannot send our soldiers on the field in countries where our presence is not clearly requested and where they intervene in a setting which doesn't match the dignity that we owe them.
The UN envoy for West Africa and the Sahel has described a devastating surge in terrorist attacks against civilian and military targets in the region. Since 2016, attacks have increased fivefold in Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso. Daniela Pearson, CGTN.
Well, for more details on this story, we spoke to our Abuja correspondent, Deji Badmus. Here's what he had to say.
Well, the attack, of course, as you have mentioned, actually happened at a place called Chinagodra, and a military base, of course, was attacked there. What we have learned is that the militants came on motorbikes and a couple of vehicles, of course, attacked the base. 25 soldiers eventually were killed. And of course, it's not the first time that a military base would come under attack in Niger. The Nigerian government, of course, has sent condolence messages to the families of those who lost their lives. And it says everything is come under control. But definitely, there's no question at all that the Nigerian government, not just the Nigerian government now, but the countries in the Sahel would need further help from the international community. Good thing that there's a meeting called by the French government on Monday, so that meeting is very crucial. We'll be watching to see what comes out of that meeting. Fact is that the Sahelian countries would need further support from the French government, even though some of their citizens have been complaining against the presence of French troops now in their soil. But it's clear, it's very, very clear that on their own, the Sahelian countries cannot deal with this crisis.
Well, staying in the Sahel, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is calling for urgent mobilization to tackle violence across the region. He'll be looking to regional leaders and international partners for support in the months ahead, as a number of West African countries are due to hold elections. These include Togo, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Guinea and Niger. Guterres advised that security trends should not distract from political developments. Meanwhile, the head of the UN Office for West Africa and the Sahel has presented his latest report to the Security Council.
The West Africa and Sahel region has been shaken by unprecedented terrorist violence in recent months. As I emphasized during my briefing to the Security Council on 16 December 2019, relentless attacks on civilian and military targets have shaken public confidence.
Well, to discuss this further, we are now joined in Lagos by Dixon Osagie, an expert on security and instability in the Sahel. Thank you very much for joining us, Dixon. Another attack in barely 1 month. The government's claim that over 60 militants were killed indicates that this must have been a big group of assailants, would you say?
Thank you very much, and nice being here. Happy New Year. It's quite regrettable we getting to hear this sad news that 25 federal forces has been eliminated by this group of criminal elements in the town of Chinagodra, a village that share boundary between the Mali states. It's a very, very devastating situation, and I want to believe that the military planning process of the Nigerian government should be revamped, because an attack came into a base, 71 soldiers died in action, and barely a month later, another 25 soldiers died in action, and the Nigerian government claimed they also eliminate 60 insurgents. That is not a good development coming from the federal forces. First of all, the Nigerian government needs to go back to the drawing board. They need to also analyze their security strategies and their operational methodology. Because here I have been able to indicate an operational error. Operational error in the sense that what are their tactical maneuvering, what are their tactical applications in containing this insurgent. I have said it time and again, part of the problem we have in our African region is that our national forces have seen this war against terrorism as a discretionary war. It shouldn't be discretionary. When it comes to terrorism, you don't have to take that war as a discretionary war. You need to take it as a necessary war. And when you take it as a necessary war, you go before the enemy. You don't allow the enemy to come after you. In a tactical warfare, we have the ambush, we have the attack. We also have the patrolling system. We also have the withdrawal. Now, what these insurgents are always using to capitalize on these national forces is a consistent attack. And each time they put pressure on our national forces, they tend to succeed. And our national forces should also remember that one of the greatest disasters in the front line is when you adopt a defensive mechanism in carrying out your fight against terrorism. They must not sit at the defense. They need to go on attacking, go on a tactical ambush, go on opportunity ambush, and also a deliberate ambush against these guys, because these tactics are the tactics these insurgents are using against our national forces, and it's not a welcome development. I sympathize with the family of the 25 soldiers that died in action, and the government of the Nigerian government of the Niger should carry out a vulnerability assessment of this incident. What went wrong? What was the solution? Did the solution resolve this problem? If not, then they need to carry out an effective risk analysis and a cover analysis of this incident.
Dixon, I take it then that you are very critical of the strategy that's being adopted. You call it the discretional war. How do you move then such a big number in an area where there's already heightened security? One almost gets the sense that the talk of increased security and alleged success in combating the militants doesn't really reflect the reality on the ground.
Well, that's an operational mechanism. In a battlefront, just what we call the SHELL acronym. The software is supposed to be there, the hardware, the liveware, and the environment. Most times, we really concentrate on equipment without really putting a necessity on the liveware. The liveware are the humans. Whatever equipment you are bringing into the front line to engage the enemy is going to be operated by a liveware. That is the man himself. That is the soldier. I think if they want to succeed this war, they should concentrate more on the liveware. That is the soldier, the foot soldiers, so that they'll be able to know what the problem is. Is it motivation? Is it like lack of firepower? Because one of the only process or reason you can achieve a successful battle against the enemy is when you project more firepower. And they also need to also study the modus operandi of this insurgent, because the large number of soldiers that are being killed in each attack is really worrisome. What are their modus operandi? It's very obvious that they carry out a kind of a reconnaissance against these soldiers, and our soldiers should not be vulnerable to reconnaissance. Reconnaissance going before our soldiers, knowing the number of soldiers in that vicinity. For example, in this Niger issue, once they come with their reconnaissance and they observe that they have about 200 soldiers, when the enemy are coming, they will come about 1,000, 2,000 with motorbike and vehicles. So what the Niger forces needs to do at evening period, which most times these guys usually come on attack, they need to go on area patrol, carry out area patrol, and any enemy given position should be well delivered with bombardments. So if they carry out effective area patrol consistently and go before the enemy, we will not be losing more troops like this in the African region.
Okay, thank you very much for your analysis. That was Dixon Osagie there, an expert on security and instability in the Sahel region. Moving on to other news now. Ethiopia, Egypt and Sudan's foreign affairs and ministers in water are expected to meet in Washington on Monday. This will be their final attempt to try and resolve the technical issues that they have on the filling and the operation of Ethiopia's Grand Renaissance Dam. CGTN's Giram Chala tells us more.
After 2 days of tough negotiations, the fourth round of the high-level technical meeting on GERD between Ethiopia, Egypt and Sudan has concluded with no deal. Ethiopia's Minister of Water, Energy and Irrigation, Seleshu Bekele, blames Egypt's unexpected proposal for the failure.
The Egyptian delegation came with a new matrix of filling the dam, and according to their new matrix, the filling of the dam is required to be accomplished within 12 to 21 days, and we said, by any criteria, this is unacceptable.
The minister also said Sudan is on board in almost all issues and has similar views on the filling and operation of the dam.
On the filling time, we and Sudan have almost a similar matrix. Even Egypt on its August 1st proposal announced a similar one to ours. But still, Sudan and Ethiopia have the acceptable timetable for filling the dam.
Now the sides have one more round of talks. This time it will be in the United States in front of U.S. Treasury Secretary and President of World Bank.
Next Monday, we will have a meeting with our observers in Washington, D.C. So our talks will be attended by the U.S. Treasury Secretary and President of the World Bank. At the same time, foreign affairs ministers of the three countries, alongside the water ministers, will meet up. We will together evaluate the current report. At the same time, foreign affairs ministers of the three countries, alongside the water ministers, will meet up.
Experts who are part of the trilateral negotiations between Ethiopia, Egypt and Sudan say reaching an all